The envelope arrived like a ghost from his worst nightmares. Ethan Rivera held it with trembling fingers, recognizing the elegant script that had once written "Freak" across his locker in permanent ink. Westfield Prep, Class of 2019, 5-year reunion. You're cordially invited. The irony wasn't lost on him. Cordially invited by the same people who had made his high school years a living hell. The scholarship kid among the trust fund babies. The Mexican-American student in a sea of privilege who had never quite fit their mold. Ethan's cramped studio apartment felt even smaller as memories crashed over him. Lunch trays knocked from his hands in the cafeteria, invitations to parties that turned out to be cruel jokes. The time they created fake social media accounts to humiliate him online. His mother, Maria Rivera, working 3 jobs just to keep him in that prestigious school, believing education was their ticket out of poverty. She never lived to see him graduate. Cancer claimed her during his senior year, while his classmates complained about which luxury car their parents bought them for their 18th birthday. The funeral had been small. Just Ethan, a few of his mother's co-workers, and Father Martinez from their local church. None of his classmates came. Why would they? He was invisible to them unless they needed someone to torment. After graduation, Ethan had vanished. He declined college interviews, ignored calls from the few teachers who believed in his potential. The pain was too raw, the memories too fresh. He wanted to disappear completely rather than risk facing more rejection. But disappearing hadn't meant surrendering. 5 years. 5 years of 18-hour days in that tiny apartment, surviving on instant ramen and burning determination. 5 years of teaching himself advanced programming languages, of failed startup attempts, of sleeping on a mattress all on the floor because he'd invested everything in his dream. The first 2 years were the hardest. Rejection letters piled up like autumn leaves. Not what we're looking for. Lacks real-world experience. Too ambitious for someone your age. Each rejection stung, but Ethan used the pain as fuel. By year 3, things started changing. Small freelance projects became bigger contracts. His innovative approach to artificial intelligence caught attention from venture capitalists. By year 4, Rivera Technologies was born. Now, at 23, Ethan Rivera was worth $47 million. His AI software powered major corporations worldwide. He employed over 400 people, many of them brilliant minds who had also been overlooked by traditional institutions. Yet nobody from his past knew. He'd built his empire in shadows, using his mother's maiden name for business dealings, avoiding publicity. The scared teenager they'd tormented had become a tech mogul, and they were completely unaware. Ethan studied himself in the bathroom mirror. The same nervous brown eyes stared back, though they held wisdom now instead of fear. His expensive suits hung in the closet. Armani, Hugo Boss, custom-tailored pieces that cost more than most people's monthly rent. But tonight, he made a different choice. Worn jeans with holes at the knees, a faded band t-shirt from high school, the same beat-up Converse sneakers he'd worn to graduation. If they expected to see failure, he'd give them exactly what they wanted to see. The Westfield Grand Ballroom glittered with false sophistication. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows over faces he recognized but no longer feared. The same predatory smiles, the same calculating eyes that had once made him feel like wounded prey. "Holy shit, no way!" a familiar voice rang out. Jake Morrison turned first, his blonde hair still perfectly styled. Ed, his smirk unchanged since high school. The senator's son, the golden boy who'd made Ethan's life a special kind of hell. Behind Jake stood the entire pack. Sophia Chen with her designer dress and cold eyes, Brad Williams still trying to look intimidating in his too-tight shirt, Madison Taylor already recording on her phone for her social media followers. "Is that actually Ethan Rivera?" Sophia's laugh was sharp as broken glass. "What are you even doing here? Don't you have a drive-through window to work?" Other conversations dimmed as people turned to watch. This was entertainment, the return of their favorite victim. Phones appeared like hungry eyes, ready to capture whatever humiliation was about to unfold. "I just wanted to see how everyone was doing," Ethan said quietly, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. "That's so precious," Madison cooed, angling her phone for the best shot. "Guys, look at this. He actually showed up. In those clothes." Her live stream was already getting comments. "OMG, the loser is back! This is gonna be epic." Brad stepped closer, using his height to intimidate just like old times. "Remember when you thought you were gonna be some computer genius? What happened to that dream, Rivera?" "Reality happened," Jake said with mock sympathy, playing to their growing audience. "Some people are born for greatness. Others—" He gestured dismissively at Ethan's appearance. "Others learn to serve their betters." The crowd was growing, drawn by the scent of blood in the water. Former classmates pulled out phones, eager to witness and record the scholarship kid's final humiliation. This would trend on every platform. #EthanFails was probably already gaining traction. "Speech! Speech!" someone called out, and the chant spread through the ballroom like wildfire. Principal Hendricks appeared on stage, microphone in hand, his smile as fake as his concern had always been. In high school, he'd turned a blind eye to the bullying, too busy courting wealthy donors to care about it. At one scholarship student's suffering. "Well, well," Hendricks announced to the crowd. "This is certainly unexpected. It seems we have a surprise guest tonight, Ethan Rivera. Let's give him a warm Westfield welcome." The applause was sarcastic and cruel, punctuated by laughter and whispered jokes. Ethan felt 15 again, standing alone while hundreds of privileged teenagers stared at him like he was an exhibit in a zoo. "Come on up, Ethan," Hendricks insisted, his voice carrying false enthusiasm. "Tell us what you've been up to these past 5 years. We're all simply dying to know how you've been doing." The walk to the stage felt endless. Each step echoed in Ethan's ears, accompanied by snickers and the soft buzz of recording devices. 300 faces stared up at him with hungry anticipation, waiting for the final act of a tragedy they'd written years ago. Ethan's hands shook as he reached for the microphone. The ballroom fell silent except for the electronic hum of phones and cameras. This was their moment of triumph, the ultimate humiliation of someone who'd dared to dream above his station. "Thank you," he began, his voice barely audible. The microphone squealed with feedback, making him wince. It's really something to see everyone again." "Speak up, loser," someone shouted from the crowd, triggering another wave of laughter. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the weight of every cruel word, every humiliation, every moment he'd felt worthless. He thought of his mother's hands, rough from cleaning offices and serving tables, but gentle when she'd bandaged his wounds after particularly bad days at school. "Mijo," she'd whispered during those dark nights, "they hurt you because they're afraid of your light. Don't let them dim it." He opened his eyes and slowly pulled out his phone. "You want to know what I've been doing?" His voice grew stronger, carrying clearly through the expectant silence. "Let me show you." The ballroom's massive projection screen flickered to life behind him. Articles began scrolling across it in rapid succession. Forbes covers, TechCrunch exclusives, Wall Street Journal profiles. Rivera Technologies valued at $3.2 billion. The youngest tech CEO to go public. From poverty to power, the Ethan Rivera story. Times Person of the Year nominee. The laughter died instantly. Phones stopped recording midstream. The silence became so complete, you could hear champagne bubbles popping in forgotten glasses across the ballroom. Jake's confident smirk crumbled. That's not real. It has to be fake." But the articles kept coming. each one more impressive than the last. Board appointments at Fortune 500 companies, keynote speeches at MIT, Stanford, and Harvard, a cover of Time magazine declaring him the mind behind tomorrow's technology. "You asked what I've been doing," Ethan said, his voice now carrying with absolute authority through the stunned ballroom. "I've been building an empire. While you were posting vacation photos funded by your trust funds, I was creating technology that's changing the world. While you were networking at country club cocktail parties, I was earning my success one sleepless night at a time." The screen now showed his company's stock ticker, RVRA, climbing steadily upward. His current net worth flashed in bold numbers that made several people audibly gasp. Sophia had gone completely pale, her designer purse slipping from nerveless fingers. The live stream she'd been recording now captured their collective shock instead of his expected humiliation. "The software powering this hotel's entire system? Mine. The AI managing the city's traffic lights you all drove through tonight? Mine. The app you're using to stream this moment live to your followers?" Ethan's smile was quiet, but devastating. "Also mine. I own 12% of the platform you're broadcasting on." Madison's phone clattered to the floor, her live stream ending abruptly as hundreds of viewers watched their planned humiliation backfire spectacularly. "You see," Ethan continued, his voice growing stronger with each revelation, "you taught me something invaluable in high school. You showed me that the cruelest people are usually the most insecure, that bullies attack what threatens them, and sometimes the greatest gift you can receive is being completely underestimated." Principal Hendricks had gone ashen, suddenly realizing he was witnessing the public destruction of his wealthiest donors' children, broadcast live to thousands of viewers across multiple platforms. Every insult became motivation. "Every door you slammed in my face taught me to build my own entrance. You tried to break my spirit and instead forged it into something unbreakable." Jake tried to salvage something, his voice cracking. "Ethan, come on, we were just kids." "No," Ethan cut him off with quiet finality. "You were cruel by choice. There's a difference between childish mistakes and deliberate malice. You chose to be bullies because you believed there would never be consequences. Tonight, you learn how wrong you were." The projection screen shifted to show news footage, Ethan shaking hands with world leaders, accepting innovation awards, delivering speeches to packed auditoriums. The scared teenager they'd tormented was now consulted by governments and quoted by Nobel laureates. "I want to thank you," he said, looking directly at each of his former tormentors with genuine sincerity. "Without your cruelty, I might have been comfortable with mediocrity. I might have settled for ordinary success. Instead, you pushed me to become extraordinary." The crowd sat in stunned silence, some still staring at their phones in disbelief as Google searches confirmed every impossible claim. Ethan stepped back from the microphone, then paused for one final revelation. "Oh, and Jake? That consulting contract your father's campaign just signed for digital strategy and voter analytics? Rivera Technologies. Your dad will be calling me sir at next week's strategy meeting. I'll be sure to mention how warmly you welcomed me tonight." Jake's face went from pale to green. His father's senatorial career depended on major donors and cutting-edge campaign technology. He'd just publicly humiliated one of the most powerful tech CEOs in the country. Ethan walked off the stage to absolute silence. No applause, no jeers, no recording devices, just 300 people choking on their own assumptions. The crowd parted before him like he was radioactive, nobody daring to meet his eyes or speak. At the exit, he turned back one final time. The ballroom full of his former classmates sat frozen, their phones dangling uselessly, the evidence of their shock recorded forever across social media platforms he partially owned. "Goodbye," he said simply, and walked out into the cool night air. Outside, Ethan breathed deeply for the first time in hours. His mother's voice echoed in his memory. Success isn't about proving others wrong, mijo. It's about proving yourself right. He'd spent 5 years building a business empire, but tonight he'd built something more valuable: closure. The frightened teenager who'd walked these halls was finally, completely gone. Behind him, the ballroom remained in shocked silence, 300 privileged young adults drowning in the realization that they'd mocked a king while dressed as court jesters. Ethan Rivera disappeared into the darkness, no longer the boy they'd broken, but the man their cruelty had accidentally forged into greatness. And for the first time since his mother's death, he felt truly grateful, even for their hatred. It had made him who he was always meant to be.